All right, here we go. Okay, so we'll start out today in our practice seated. So I want you to make your seat comfortable as usual. I want you to take some props, a couple of props maybe underneath your sits bones so that you can sit up tall with as much ease as you can muster. And that might mean sitting in a chair, and that's totally fine. It's totally fine to sit in a chair. We'll do a few rounds of Chandra Bedana, that alternate nostril breathing where you're just breathing in through the left and you're just breathing out through the right. You can use your hand to manipulate the nostrils, but you don't have to. If you're going to use your hand, you hold up your right hand, your thumb and your ring finger are going to rest against the crescents of the nose. And then the index finger and middle finger can rest against the forehead. And then let your elbow and your shoulder relax. Take a deep breath in through both nostrils. See if you can get a little bit taller through the spine. Breathe out through both nostrils. Try that one more time. And then we'll close the right nostril and inhale through the left. And we'll close left and exhale right. And we'll just do that a few more times. So closing right, inhaling left. Closing left, exhaling right. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale left. Exhale right. One more time, inhaling left. Exhaling right. And then release your right hand if you're using it. Breathe in and out through both nostrils. And we'll start to come down onto our backs. You'll want your props close by so that you can just have them within hand's reach. We'll have a hip-focused practice today. So we'll do a little bit of range of motion and external and internal rotation through the hips. So we'll kind of just see if we can get those hips moving in their whole range of motion. And so as you come down to your back, you might want to pad the back of the head with an extra blanket if you have it. And then you might want an extra pillow or blanket or something alongside of your mat close to your hips and your knees. We'll start off with the knees bent and the feet planted. We'll do a little bit of prep work before we come into stillness. We're just going to take that right knee out to the right. And then right knee back up to center. And you're just going to stay on that right side. So right knee out to the right. And then back through center. Right knee to the right. Back through center. So you're just opening and closing that right knee. Now, left leg, you can stretch it out long if you like. It's almost like you're coming into fallen tree on your back. In and out of fallen tree. And as you're doing this motion of moving that hip open and closed, notice how it feels on that right side, and not just the inner thigh, the groin, the hip flexor area, but also how does it feel at the back of the hip? So the pelvis, the glute, even the lower back maybe. The next time the right knee falls out to the right, we're going to pause here. I'm going to give you a couple of options. You can stay there like that and fall in tree, but you could also take your right ankle and just rest it on top of your left thigh. So sometimes that will change sensation, sometimes that will intensify sensation, sometimes there won't be any change at all. And so that's really relative to you and your body, your body's range of motion, where you're tight, where you're not tight. And so you can try both if you want to. And then you can always take a prop. If there's a lot of space between that right knee, right thigh, and floor, you can always take a prop and slide it underneath the outer right knee and thigh. We'll be here for about 3 minutes. And just do your best here to relax the muscle, especially around that outer right thigh and glute. That's why props come in really handy, because in a restorative practice, when the muscles feel like they have to hold the bony structure in place, they'll clench and it'll be hard for you to relax the muscle. So that's why we add props, so that the muscles can relax and soften, then the bony structure can soften and open. And that's what allows your range of motion and your flexibility to increase. As you're lying here in stillness, bringing your awareness to your breath over and over again. We'll take 3 more breaths here. On your next breath in, use your right hand to help your right thigh come back through center, and then hug your right knee into your chest. You can use your hands to pull that right thigh towards the outer rib cage and belly. Give it a little squeeze. And then maybe start to draw some circles with that right knee. Now keep your left hand holding your right knee and extend your right arm off to the side. We're going to come into a twist. We're going to stay on this right side. So left hand's holding right knee, right arm's reaching off to the side. You're going to roll onto your left hip. Again, a prop underneath the inner right knee or ankle might be helpful. I like a bolster in this variation of a twist because I can take it and it runs the length from knee, shin to ankle. So we'll just be here for about a minute. A little bit of prep work for what we're going to do next after we're done with this little sequence. See if you can stay broad across the chest. Kind of keep your shoulder blades grounded onto your mat. Don't worry about how close your right knee or right leg get to the floor. This is again why props are really helpful. You build the floor up underneath that right leg instead of forcing the right leg to get somewhere in particular. There's really no destination. You just let it be more about a sensation and less about what it looks like. Take one more breath here. And then we'll unwind out of our twist. Bend both knees, plant the feet. Adjust yourself so that you're back in the center of your mat if you moved around. And then we'll take that left knee, open it out to the left side, and close it back up. So just the left side's opening and closing with the knee bent. So this is meant to be a slow movement. It's meant to be an inquiry and a little bit of a signal, a neuromuscular signal to that hip and the whole surrounding area, all the muscles surrounding that left hip, that you're going to ask something from it. And then if you like, you can stretch the right leg out long. So this becomes more of a fallen tree looking like exercise. Next time left knee opens out to the side, we'll pause there. You can either stay in fallen tree, or you can take that left ankle and rest it on top of the right thigh. So it's kind of like a figure four without bending the right knee. Again, noticing what kind of support that left knee, left hip needs, maybe bolster, block, or blanket underneath that side. Paying attention to the sensation in your body. Notice where the muscles still kind of gripping and pulling. That's where you want to add props so that the muscles can release, the bony structure of your body can get heavy, and that's what's going to start to increase your range of motion and your flexibility. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. When you're ready, take your left hand and help your left knee come back through center. And then continue pulling the knee in towards the chest, the left side of the chest, the rib cage, the abdomen. Just give it a little squeeze. Use both of your hands, wrap your hands around your shin. Deep breath here. And then maybe a few circles. You can draw some circles with that left knee. And we'll move into our twist variation. We're going to keep that right hand wrapped around the knee. The left arm will stretch off to the left. If you need to move any props to the other side of your mat towards your right hip, you're going to roll onto your right hip. So left hip stacks on top, left knee, inner left knee and ankle, get some support. See if, again, you can stay broad across the chest and the shoulders. Left shoulder blade in particular, see if you can stay in contact with the mat there. Just about a minute here. Taking one more breath in your twist. And then we'll start to unwind. Hugging both knees into the chest. Moving into happy baby. If you want to, you can rock your happy baby side to side. You can also extend one leg and then the other. And then we'll come up to a seated position and we'll set up in a few seated positions before we take Shavasana. All right, so. Okay. Just making sure my mic's still working. All right. So we'll take a variation of pigeon. If you practice with me regularly, you know that I like to set up pigeon typically with these two 90-90-degree angle shapes with my legs. So it doesn't matter what side you're starting on first. I just have my left shin bone forward. I have that shin parallel with the top of my mat. And then I'm trying to get my right knee bent a lot. And it doesn't really matter what this back leg does to start off, as long as all that weight's in that left hip. You can add all different kinds of props to this particular shape before you fold over that front shin. Okay, so sometimes what I find is helpful, or kind of a nice little exploration, is I'll take a bolster underneath my left hip. So it's like I'm sitting on this bolster, and I'm still sitting all the way on my left hip. My bolster is really big and bulky, so this creates an interesting dynamic. So forward folding from here. Again, building props up underneath your forehead, underneath your chest, blocks, pillows, blankets, all of that stuff is welcome. And so the reason I like to start off by moving all the weight into the front leg hip is because I'm taking the weight off of that knee joint, and I'm making sure that I'm moving that stretch, that sensation, into the belly of the muscle and not into the joint of the knee. Okay. So once you're there, once you're in your forward fold, if you want to, if your body allows you to, Then you could extend that right leg back behind you. But you never really need to do that. You can keep both knees bent the whole time if you like. Now, if any of these suggestions aren't working for you and you want to just take a more traditional variation of a pigeon without props, without starting with that 90-degree angle shape, totally fine. This is your practice. We'll be in our pigeon variation for another minute. Just doing your best to keep breathing deeply in and out through your nose, relaxing the muscles. And remember what you've learned about the muscle's ability to relax is linked to feeling supported enough for the bones to get heavy. So if you're using the right kind of prop setup over time, I'm not saying you won't have sensation in your muscles. There might be like a nice stretch sensation, but they should eventually be able to relax enough that you'll be able to passively increase range of motion and flexibility. We'll take 3 more breaths here. If you're in that forward fold, press into your hands, lift up through your chest. Can you pause and breathe in at the top without changing your legs? Just pause here, breathe in. And then continue to roll all that weight onto your left hip. Swing your right leg forward. So both legs are stretched forward. You're like basically just in Dandasana, seated staff pose. Breathe in, grow tall, stretching out through the legs. Breathing out, you can crawl your hands forward and we'll just take a brief forward fold over these legs. Again, I don't want you to worry about how far you get. If your hands touch your feet or not, doesn't matter. Just give yourself a moment to breathe into your back body, even if it's just the idea that you're resting your chin into your chest. Breathe into your back body. Take one more breath here. And then again, we'll sit up nice and tall. Now, if you're seated in staff pose like I am, all you need to do from here is roll that weight onto the right hip, bend both those knees, swinging that left leg behind you. Okay, so we're just switching sides and then positioning yourself so all your weight's on your right hip or whatever side you didn't do. See if you can get that front leg shin parallel with the top edge of your mat and bend your back knee as much as you need. And it's really normal for sides to be very different in sensation and range of motion. It's always okay to have differences from right to left. When you're ready, you can start to fold over that front leg. Building your props up to meet you. Noticing if you're still really tight and tense in the muscles. If you feel a lot of sensation somewhere in the muscles, maybe you need to add more props underneath the chest, underneath the arms, underneath the head. So you're not trying to force your way down towards the floor, but you're bringing the floor up to meet you where you're at. We'll take 3 more breaths here. And then you're all the way down into that fold, pressing up into your hands, pausing at the top, keeping your legs as they are in your pigeon. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Maintaining all that weight onto the right hip, even rolling more weight onto that right hip so you can swing your left leg forward. Stretching both legs forward. And then fold over those legs. Just give me a couple breaths there. Allowing your chin to rest in towards your chest. Doesn't matter how close you get to the legs. From this shape, we'll just uncurl the spine, come back up to a seated position, and then transition to our backs for Shavasana. Always supporting yourself in your Shavasana so that you can find stillness. Sometimes that means adding extra layers of clothing or something over the eyes to block out extra light. Support underneath the backs of the knees or a little bit of extra weight on the belly. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale the air out. Try that twice more. In through the nose, out through the mouth. One more time. Gentle seal of the lips. Allow the air to just passively move in and out through the nose. Please feel free to stay in your Shavasana longer. I highly encourage you to stay for another 5 minutes at least if you can. If you need to move on with your day, begin to wiggle fingertips and toes. Maybe stretch your arms overhead, take a big breath in, stretch through the length of the body. Exhaling, rolling off to a side, and just briefly sitting upright. If you'd like to join me, bringing the hands together at the heart and bowing the chin into the chest. Taking a moment to honor your practice with reverence and gratitude. To all of our teachers, past, present, future, to the teacher within your own heart. Namaste, yogis. All right, everyone. My hope is you're still in Shavasana. Take care of yourselves.